barbecuing. We'll be featuring some of the blends from Spice Roads, but we'll also be talking about a few techniques that you may not know about on the grill. First of all, I'd like to talk about how the typical ways of barbecuing involve either a sauce or a rub. And here at Spice Road, we only have one true rub, primarily because we know there are 1,000 out there. Most of those rubs are developed by trial and error, they're a concoction, and somebody loves them and they decide to market them. Here at Spice Road, we're a little more scientific about that in our blending. In fact, we blend things down to the 1/10 of 1 gram, depending upon the strength and the profile of those flavors from the different herbs and spices. At any rate, we have a lot of different blends, probably 16 that we can actually use for barbecuing, but let me show you some of those basic techniques and 5 of our probably most popular blends that our customers have been using for barbecue. First, I'd like to talk about the brown sugar-based blends. These are used in ways to be able to actually get rid of the pre-mixed and liquid forms of barbecue sauce. I haven't used these for years. Somebody gave me this as a gift and it actually expired back in 2021. So you can obviously see that I'm not using that stuff. It not only, once you open it, it just gets old and the flavors deteriorate quite quickly because they are fluid. The premise of our blends is they are dry. With that, you can make just as much as you want, you can make it as strong as you want, and the rest is shelf stable. The brown sugar bases are quite easy to use actually, and I'm going to demonstrate too. Now before I start mixing sauces, I do want to remind you of the holy trinity of barbecuing naked meats. Of course we use salt, pepper, garlic. I still use salt, pepper, garlic. It's wonderful. It doesn't detract from some of the meats, especially the light meats like pork and fish. And I'd like you to be introduced to one other option from our store, and that's the not over seasoned salt. Salt, pepper, garlic, paprika, and a few other flavors, but we don't overdo it. You can use plenty of this before it gets salty. That's not the case with most rubs on the market. The same goes for the Lone Star Pride though, because it's our rub. It does have a lot of salt and you have to be careful with that. But we believe it's a delicious flavor and has much more character than some on the market. Now, I'd like to go ahead and show how I use the brown sugar base. One of them is from America. This is made for a Texas style sauce, a Kansas City style sauce, and it can be modified slightly for a Carolina vinegar mop. Let me show you how we do that. Now, you obviously can take this, put it on a plate, and press the hamburger or chicken or other flat meats, the thin meats, and they will actually char. Now, one of the great things about our blend is this actually has liquid smoke that's been dehydrated. So if you wish, a small amount of this, even in a cast iron skillet in the house, is a nice mild way to get that barbecue flavor, that smoky richness that comes from the grill without the grill. Now, I use this primarily with ketchup. Now, what I do is, rather than adding the liquid first, I estimate about how much I'm going to need, and then from there, use the liquid base to whatever I'm going to use, be it ketchup or soy sauce or honey or molasses, and then can make just exactly what I need, and it's not contaminated when it goes back to the refrigerator as the liquid does. In this situation, I'm going to make basically a Kansas City style, and with some ketchup and a little mix, and all I need to do is, I can use it like this, but what I typically do is put it in the microwave for about 30 or 40 seconds, and all of that nice goodness then develops and gives the acids in the ketchup a chance to do its thing. A delightful, delightful sauce. If you want a Kansas City sauce, I typically use this the last 10 or 15 minutes and do a naked smoke first with a light salt, pepper, garlic mixture. Now, one thing that our family has found is wonderful, and I have to admit, we use it more than we probably should. My family's come up with the idea that this is campfire fry sauce because of the extra heat, because of the extra smoke flavors. This fry sauce is absolutely delightful. Mix that up with equal parts of mayonnaise is typically what we do at our home, and you can see a fry sauce that has a little more character to it than simple ketchup and mayonnaise. It really is good. We like it a lot. Next, I'd like to demonstrate the Japanese Sun Blend. It also is a brown sugar base, but has dehydrated soy sauce and some other spices in there that are very typical of a teriyaki style barbecues used in the East Orient. What I do many times is hydrate that and make a liquid teriyaki sauce for brushing on and marinating as well. Once again, I only use as much as I think I'm going to make, and typical soy sauces ordinarily are made with a soy sauce liquid. As this has soy sauce powder in it already, you can avert that a little bit and subvert that a little bit to other liquids such as sake. I'm going to use a little beer. Of course, it would be Sapporo if it was from Japan, but it only takes small amounts, and I'm going to be very careful as I begin to mix this so that I can get the thickness that I want. With soy sauce, it would have a darker color naturally, but with a beer or sake, obviously a different flavor profile, and oh, what a different smell. And there's plenty of families in Japan that I found, especially up north in Misawa, that use beer and sake. So another good way to use one of our blends that's not so typical, but gives you lots and lots of varieties. We designed all of our blends to be quite versatile. What I'd like to show you now is the herbal base that's got chicken stock and other natural flavors in it. And I know that you've done this at home, but it's not always this easy. I'm going to make basically a lemon pepper chicken, and by doing so, there's a little bit of a technique that I believe will help you in the kitchen. One is try to use the acid first. The acid actually breaks down the cells in the herbs and in the dehydrated vegetable and allows that flavor that's trapped inside the cells to come out, and then that flavor is transferred into the meat. Acids also tenderize meats, as you know. With this blend, I'm using the French Provincial, which is a vegetable and herbal blend. And so this keeps you out of the business of cutting the onions and the celery and the carrots and bell peppers that you might use in a typical marinade, especially for chicken or fish. And I'm just going to allow that to sit for about 10 minutes. And in that 10 minutes, you can already see how some of that flavor is beginning to leach out of the cells, to lyse those cells and bring that flavor out. If I wait about 10 or 15 minutes and then put in some oil, I typically use olive oil, and then put in whatever I'm going to do, that will retard that process of the acid continuing to deteriorate flavors and can give you an off feel. For my family tonight, I'm going to use asparagus actually. This is a grand mixture for doing vegetables. I do squash, carrot, eggplant. Asparagus is delightful. It's one of our favorites. And I'll do that here in a little bit for my family. That's the herbal blends. There's several others that are suitable for that same acid-based marinade. And we'll talk about some of those a little later on. The next two seasonings I want to show you are based on dry spice blends. One here is from the Bayou. This is actually our Cajun blend. And this is from the Mediterranean. We call Arabia to India. The Mediterranean spice blend may not be as familiar to you, but I believe if you try it, you will be hooked just like my family is. First, I'll be demonstrating the Cajun. And it's about chili and pepper and chili and another pepper and another chili, and is quite delightful. We decided that long ago that we weren't going to sell expensive salt like many companies do, but more than that, especially with these that are high in personality, we want you to be able to control the amount of flavor, the amount of heat that you wish, and you might find that a little less of this and a little more of your salt does the trick. This is a very, very versatile blend that will give you that Bayou, Louisiana flavor. As you know, the Bayou has seafood. Fish, redfish, alligator, nutria, shrimp, scallop, crawdad, it goes on and on. And this is highly, highly effective in covering some of those stronger meats, especially things like wild boar and nutria that has a stronger flavor. And sometimes we're not trying to enhance flavor as much as we are trying to mask that flavor and make something that's palatable for our family. So I'm going to focus on some seafood here real quickly and show two different methods. The first of all I'm going to show is just white fish. It's simple, it's easy. I'm going to put it in the foil because that's how I like to do it on the grill. Certainly you can do fish open, but it's kind of a mess and lots of times just overcooked too quickly. So with the fish, this is super simple. A little dusting. Obviously this is going to get wet from the moisture in the fish. That blend will spread around, so there's no reason to get too neurotic about rubbing that in. And it's ready for the grill. The next seafood that I'd like to show is something that's very typical, obviously, and that is skewered shrimp. I don't know if you do this, but I always put a keeper on there. Onion is one of my favorite because onion just screams Cajun. And rather than just sprinkling it on, sometimes what I do is by putting that there, I'm able to actually take that and put it inside that, and I can use this over and over and over and not waste it with subsequent skewers. As you can tell, that's going to be just, as Chef Paul would say, it makes your mouth happy. Next, I'd like to talk about the Arabia blend. This blend from the Mediterranean area is quite a different flavor combination than you're probably used to. It also has a lot of coriander and a little tiny bit of turmeric and some things that we might not think about as American grillers. But some of the more familiar dishes that you might have heard about is gyros and shawarma. Shawarma is often made with lamb, mutton, but here in America it's expensive, it's not very common, and so even the restaurants that and the food trucks use chicken and pork a lot for shawarma. Shawarma is very easy, but you want to marinate it for a little while, just like many meats, but only for about 20 or 30 minutes. That's enough. A little bit of lemon juice is typical, and just a little bit. Mostly what we're trying to do, once again, is use that acid to pull the flavors out of the spices themselves. Sprinkle of that on, work it in, and as you can tell, that will be ready for the grill in about 20 minutes, and then sliced real thin, put in flatbreads, or often sometimes when I was there, I saw it just rolled up in cabbage. It's not always what we see here in America. Now, the other way to use this, not so much for gyros, but it's a good blend to use for things like chicken tikka masala, although it's not exactly the same. It's so very close that it's a good blend to have in the kitchen. How we use that is actually using a Greek yogurt or a plain yogurt of some sort and mixing that with the Arabia blend and making a marinade. And then chicken, diced chicken usually I use first because it's easier to dice it now than it is later. I use that diced chicken, put it in, marinate it overnight. And although this isn't necessarily a true barbecue spice at this point with the yogurt, it certainly is with the shawarma. But at this point, it's going to be used in a skillet. I often use cast iron because I like that heat retention. And you cook the chicken, add a little bit of tomato sauce, done. Wonderful, wonderful dish. I'm going to show you here soon some of the other blends and how they're categorized. Some of them will be sugar-based, some will be hard and pepper-based, and others will be based on herbs and vegetables. From different parts of the world, we have different flavors. Once again, as I said, our world uses many of the same flavors and is cross-cultural, but that specific blend and that certain balancing of different flavors gives us a different profile, and you will be able to take a trip around the world without going through airport security. Thanks for joining us here at Not So Basic Barbecue. These are some of the blends that are suitable for barbecue. We try to make all of our blends as versatile as possible, not the one-hit wonders that you often see in the grocery store. For the dry spice blends, we have Creole Magic, Cher Cajun, which I demonstrated, Arabia to India, which I demonstrated. Mejor Sonora is made with 2 different kinds of chili powder, cumin, garlic, onion, and some other natural flavors that are very typical of the Southwest region. Really good for al carbon style barbecues such as fajita and asadas. French Provincial we actually demonstrated, but the other herbal and dehydrated vegetable blends that are super for wet marinades are the Fattorio Italiano, which is from northern Italy, and the Roasted Vegetable, which has less herb and more natural vegetables. We also talked about the sugar-based. We demonstrated the Japanese Sun and the Deep House Smokehouse, also the Laotian Fields, and the Polynesian varieties are able to be used very much in a like manner. As you can see, I'm kind of guessing that there's a lot of these blends and spices that we add that you would not have in your kitchen cupboard. Things like mushroom powder. This is a porcini mushroom and blend. Indian chili powder, turmeric, cayenne pepper that's actually 60,000 Scoville. Turmeric, you may use a little bit, but be careful. This has been used to dye clothing and other artifacts as early as 35,000 BC. You certainly don't want to get this on your clothing. We use garam masala, which is a spice blend from the North India region, and I'm quite sure that you don't have some of that in your kitchen. This is not so exotic. It's dehydrated soy sauce, but it keeps you from having to buy an extra amount in your kitchen, but it also concentrates flavor so that you don't have to use as much liquid to have the same flavor profiles. We use a cinnamon from Ceylon. This is from the plant Cinnamomum veritas, which is translated as true cinnamon. This is not typically marketed in the United States. It is usually about 10 to 12 times more expensive than the cinnamon you see here in the United States, which is actually from the cassia variety of trees. This is better in many ways, and we have a video that explains the difference between cassia varieties and true cinnamon. We use some rather expensive things as well. Probably you don't have these in your kitchen. If you do, I hope you understand them. This is cardamom from South America. Cumin is very strong, but it is not the same from all over the world. We standardize our cumin here in the laboratory by analysis and make sure that we can keep the balance over time through our blends. You probably don't have mace, This is actually made from the tendrils around the kernel of the nutmeg plant. The tendrils are this fine membrane on the outside and very strong, but also very expensive. This one tiny bag cost us about $48. In the grocery store, if you can find it, I have seen it as much as $18 for a half ounce. We use these different varieties of spices to bring you the flavors of the world, things that you probably don't have, don't blend, and have not experienced. We hope you join us for a trip around the globe.